Hello, my name's John, these are my Drookian Fen Guard, and you're watching Wargames, Models and Other Hobbies. Hello and welcome back. In this series of videos I am making a small Imperial Guard squad from a single miniature. The miniature in question is Sergeant Grania from Hell's Last. You can see her up on the screen there. These are the two models I've done so far. I'll leave a link in the description to the playlist with each of the videos in. Today I am going to make the third member of the team. So as with all of these models, I'm going to need the body. I'm going with the standard backpack from the model. And I've already pre-cut these out. I've got a hotshot las gun, the arm that holds it, the left arm, and I've also got the backpack in case I need some of the cabling at the side. As with all of my videos, they're real time, so the only time I'm going to stop recording is if there's a phone call, someone at the door, or I have to let the dog out. Other than that, what you see is what you get. Apologies as usual if you can hear any noise in the background, but for now let's get started. Now the first thing that I want to consider with this third model is the direction that the legs are pointing. So at the moment the two models that I have done have the same pose for where they're walking. So I'm working out ways I could possibly adjust them. And the first thing I'm thinking about doing, so let's undo that again, is cutting the legs where they meet the long coat, the kilt, and just turning them slightly. So it's a bit of a risk with this one to do that. The other option I have is to adjust where the boots are sitting, so turning them slightly. By doing any of these, I'm not going to be able to use the original base, but that doesn't matter. Other options I could do is trim the body and turn it on the waist, but I'm not really sure I want to do that. I'm just going to push that together and put this on the base to have a look and a little bit of a think. If I had any other legs, I might swap the legs over. Actually, what I'm going to do with this model, I'm not going to change the legs in this model. I'm going to have a bit more of a think. What I'm going to make sure is that the head is pointing in a different direction on this model. So that will change how this profile of this model sits. So after that, I don't think I'm going to have much more choice other than to change the way that the models stand, because I'll have 5 models all pointing in the same direction, so I don't know if that's necessarily going to work. Oops, let's try and push that in and just hold that together for a bit. So, as with the last model, I'm going to leave the items on the feet where it joins the base, as in one of the videos I'm going to do all the details for all of these models to kind of line them all up together. So, the first thing that I'm going to do, now I've got stuck this together, is trim this section just here, which will allow this gun to sit in place. The arm with the gun to sit in place. Now, if you haven't seen the other videos, as I said, I'll leave a link in the description to the playlist. If you've got any suggestions of other models you'd like to see converted, please drop it in the comments. I'm happy to see what I can do. So with this one, I'm going to trim off the side of this one as well, which will allow the other arm to go in place. And I'm going to use this arm to determine where this one sits. So let's get some glue around the edge here. Now, with all these models, there are some details that I'm going to remove later on. Those in question are probably the sheath for the dagger, because all of them are going to have that in exactly the same place, and I kind of want to adjust that slightly, so I'll probably be trimming that off from most of them, but that's going to be in a later video when I start doing the details. These ones are all about getting the main body together for each of the models. Oops. Now, I should have thought about the last one I did, where there's not much to actually stick to with these models. So I'm going to have to be really quite patient while putting them together. As this one keeps falling and my fingers keep getting in the way as well. Okay. Let's have a look at how that's going to sit. So I'm going to need to nudge that up slightly. Okay, so let's trim the front off there slightly. Now, I will, with these models, when I'm doing all the details, any holes and gaps I'm going to fill with green stuff, but because it's going to be such a small amount on each model, I'm going to do that all at the same time in that video, as it's very easy just to mix up too much green stuff. And I'm going to have 5 models by the end of this. Okay, that's sat in place quite nicely actually. That arm's gone down a little bit, so let's raise that up slightly. Sorry if that went off camera, just trying to... So you can see there's a big gap appearing there, so let's just try and roughly line things up. And I'm going to put that into a base for now, so it's easier to handle it while it's drying. There we go. Okay, so while that's drying, I'm going to look at possible heads that I can use. So I have the Kassakin kit here, some leftover bits. Now I have an idea about which head I might want to use for this. Let's have a look at these Necromunda ones. I think for this one I want to go for this head here with the hair peaked up at the front. That one there. Let's zoom in a little bit while I'm sorting this out. So the backpack's going to be the last thing I do with this one. So what I want to do is have a look at the direction of the heads for each of these the previous ones. So if I put the right foot going straight forward, so the first model I did, the sergeant, she's looking off to the left by about 45 degrees. Then the flamer operative is turning their head slightly more. So I'm going to want it to go either straight on or slightly to the right. But to do that, what I'm going to need to do is just gently trim some of the edge. And I want to be careful not to trim too much of this. So I might have to do a little bit and come back to it, but we'll see. Yeah, so now I need to... actually going to use my clippers for this. Just to tweak a few bits. Chances are I've just taken a little bit too much off it, but it doesn't matter. And I still got... oh, there we go. No, that is pushing the model out slightly, so let's do a little bit of scraping with my scalpel. Ideally, what I should have probably done, I should have learnt this by now, is chosen the head before I put the body together, and I could probably encapsulate it as I put it in. That's more like it. So what I'm going to do, let's run some glue around the inside of the collar, and then get the head in there, and I want it turned slightly like that. There we go. So now this character's looking, if we hold the foot forward, is looking that way. Okay, so let's just put that down while it's thinking about drying. Now let's have a look at these two backpacks. So the one that comes with the model is the one I kind of really want to go with, just because it's got the whole kind of bedroll, the bag and the power packs on it. But I might need to use this power cable depending on where it sits in comparison to this one. So what I'm going to do first, hold this one up to the model to see where it's sitting. Okay, so let's push the original one in place. There we go. Oh, that arm is quite loose while I do that, so let's make sure the backpack's lined up, and I just want to tack a little bit of glue on the back there just so it melts some plastic. There we go. I'm happy with this one so far. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to risk cutting this off and seeing where it sits onto the model. So I'm going to do this carefully from the back and try and get it so it doesn't split off. There we go. And let's have a look. I think that's gonna... okay, I'm gonna risk trimming this here. So I'm gonna do that with my snips. And I'm saving all of these little bits because I never know where I could use these as details, either on the bases of these models when I start sorting out those details or in other conversions. So I currently have this little box with all the various bits that I'm using for this project if they come off sprues. So I'm going to get my tweezers so I can just hold this a little bit steadier in position so I can see if it's going to work. And yeah, I can get that to work. I can get that to work. So let me just go and sort my dog out. He's wandering around. Sorry about that. He's been on 2 lovely long walks with me today, and he's now lazing around the house, but he does like his blanket wherever he goes. And as I am his slave, I end up taking it to him. Okay. So what I'm thinking this is actually going to do while I position it is nudge the arms slightly, but I'm not worried if it does that, as I'll end up gluing them a bit more. Hang on, let's have a look. So that's coming up. Might have to trim that slightly. Let's undo that. Let's shave off some of the back end of this. I'm trying to do this so you can see it, but it's not really going to work, so apologies. That's kind of off camera, behind my fingers. There we go. Okay, that is sitting exactly where I want it to be. So let's touch some glue in there and on the connector. Now you'll see that there is a big gap appearing there on the arm. That is going to have to get filled with some green stuff when I start working a bit more detail on the model, but for now I'm happy with that. Okay, so yeah, I'm going to wait for the glue to dry before I do any other details on this, and that will be in another video. So for now I'm going to leave this one just here, so I'll put a picture up of the original model at the side so we can have a look at how this one is changing slightly. And for now I just want to say thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you're enjoying this series of videos. My name's John and you've been watching War Games, Models and Other Hobbies.